Hello Georgetown, I'm Beverly Enos and you're watching Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. As part of your cable service here in Georgetown, please remember, would love to see you here with me for an interview, or if you would like to learn how to use the camera and do some editing, if you'd like to borrow equipment, they have it all. So think about coming down, joining us, and being part of your local cable TV. Now, today we're talking to ChrisDiFranco, and he is the athletic director here in Georgetown. The new athletic director.
New athletic director.
This is your first year.
It is, yeah. I'm co-athletic director right now with Bill Adams Sr. He had been the athletic director at Linfield for many years, and he's basically come in to groom me as the future athletic director. So we're working together right now, but so I'm learning on the job.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from Peabody, Massachusetts originally.
Okay. Do you live in Georgetown now?
No, I live in Salem.
All right. Still close.
Yeah.
Still close. And what kind of education background do you have to come into this type of job?
Well, I'm a high school teacher first and foremost.
Ah.
And I have been coaching at the high school for the last 8 years, so since I've been there.
So what do you teach?
I teach history.
Here in Georgetown?
Yes, at the high school.
Oh, good. Okay. So is the athletic director usually somebody that already works for the school? A teacher that kind of gets drafted?
So Guy Prescott, who had been the athletic director, was in the physical education department before. So he, both taught and was the athletic director. And that's going to be the same thing for me.
Did you do athletics? Did you play on teams when you were growing up?
I did. I wasn't the best athlete in the world, but I got through.
What type of sports did you?
I played soccer, I ran track, I played tennis.
Okay, so kind of a little bit of all around. Why did you choose to first be a teacher? Why did you choose that field of work?
I actually absolutely loved some of the people who taught me when I was in high school, and they really inspired me to want to get into the profession. And history is just my favorite topic, so why not do something you love? My
daughter's a high school teacher, and it was Barbara Morehouse that did the same thing for her, who was still in town. Why did you have an interest in becoming the athletic director?
I think largely because of my coaching experience. I've been, like I said, coaching for the last 8 years. I've always been kind of interested in helping out with the setup and the scheduling and all those sorts of things. So it was just a really natural fit. Okay,
so that leads right to the next question. What are the duties of the athletic director?
It's more than I knew getting into it, I'll tell you that.
Most jobs are.
Yeah, it's a lot of scheduling, a lot of email and texting and making sure people are in the right places, the buses are, at the right place, the times are right, that officials are correct, that everyone follows all the protocols, the rules. So it's, management position as far as managing the coaches and the players, but it's also really an administrative position in that you're controlling a lot of moving parts.
So let's say for football, you have to set the schedule of which schools you're going to play and which weeks and...
Yeah, so we're part of a few different leagues depending on the sport, and they'll send out a master schedule, but then we have to make sure our fields are available. We have to pick up non-league games against teams that, are outside of our conference. So there is a lot of that, and oftentimes the coaches do help with that.
Okay. Now, do you coach here in Georgetown as well?
I was the varsity soccer coach for the last 3 years, but I've stepped it down because of this position. So.
I think that's more than enough. And this includes boys and girls?
Yes.
Okay. And this is high school?
Yes. And middle school.
Middle school.
Yep.
Middle school, high school.
Yep.
I'm still used to calling that the Georgetown High School because that's where I went, but it is the middle and high school. As the new director or co-director, what have you enjoyed the most of this part of the job?
I think just getting to see all aspects of how athletics work. To me, it still comes down to being about the kids and seeing them in practices and games and that sort of thing. It's just really great to see all the work that they put in pay off.
And what's the least favorite part of it?
Sometimes you have to make really unpopular decisions, and it can be something as simple as not having enough field space and saying, okay, you guys are practicing now, the next group's practicing then, and 3 people want to practice early or late, or really enforcing a lot of our policies because we're governed by the MIAA, by the Cape Ann League, by the school committee. So we have a lot of different policies, and just making sure everyone follows them, and when they're not, having to say, we're not following this, we have to do it.
Okay, now what teams do we have in Georgetown?
We have a lot. I can go through season by season if you'd like.
Sure.
So In the fall, we have football, we have cheering, we have boys and girls soccer, we have field hockey, we have cross country. In the winter, we have boys and girls basketball. We have a co-op track program, so we run with Ipswich. We have wrestling, we have cheering again. And then in the spring, we have boys and girls lacrosse. We have a track co-op with Ipswich again. I forgot to mention we have ice hockey co-op with Pentucket, and we have girls ice hockey co-op with Masconomet, which is kind of neat.
Is that new?
Yeah, it's a couple of years we've been in that, and it's
Wow.
really a neat opportunity. We have baseball and softball as well, so we run the gamut.
So all the typical things that most of us remember, but there's some new ones. Lacrosse has to be
Absolutely,
pretty
yeah.
new.
Lacrosse is one of the fastest growing sports in the country, and we're happy to be involved.
I remember when field hockey was kind of the new sport, and
Yeah.
now, is it still all girls for field hockey?
Boys can play. I don't think in Georgetown we've had that happen yet, but they are actually eligible to play.
Oh, okay. Works both ways. What are the challenges that you face on a regular basis?
I think time management is probably the most important thing, especially I'm in the classroom for the workday, and then I'm the athletic director after that. But there's often times when something will come up during the workday that I have to take care of or find a way to take care of while I'm still in the classroom. So, it's just really organization and making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Georgetown's very proud of all of our athletics, and when you read the local newspaper, it's got a whole section for the kids' athletics. How are the teams doing this year?
Excellent. It's been...
I mean, I see all kinds of first place this and...
Yeah, it's really been a banner year, and we actually do raise banners when we have good performances, so I can run through it by sport if you want.
Sure.
There's a lot, and I'll probably forget something. So the boys soccer team, which was my team, we made it to the state championship game. So we won the Division III North and the Eastern Massachusetts title. We had the Player of the Year, Matt Bitchell. The girls soccer team won the Division III North title. They had the Player of the Year, Kelly Chickering. They also had the Coach of the Year, Colleen Gibbs, and a 100-goal scorer, Nicolene Holland, which is unprecedented in our school's history. So those are pretty amazing. Our field hockey team made the state tournament, so they had a really solid season. Our football team, they're under a new coach, and they're kind of rebuilding a little bit, but they really showed some promise at the end of the season, and I think they're going to have a great year next year. And cross country had one of their best years in school history. Everyone had personal bests, and a lot of course records were set. So just the fall was a great, great season. In the winter, the highlight was really our cheering program, and a lot of people think cheerleading isn't a sport. It is.
It's not just standing there with
pom-poms
anymore.
I mean, that's part of it is cheering at the basketball games, the football games, but they have routines that they choreograph with, music and all kinds of, really athletic moves, and they did unbelievable in the state competition. And they won the Division IV North title, which is the first time in school history that that's happened. So that was a huge highlight for us. The girls basketball team also made the state tournament. They beat Whittier in the first round, and that's a much more heavily favored team than us. So that was great to make it past the first round. They had the Player of the Year, Kristen Hogan, Coach of the Year, Dave Tucker. The boys basketball team struggled a little bit this year, kind of a rebuilding year, but they really turned it on at the end of the season, are showing good signs for next year. Our wrestling program actually is growing by leaps and bounds. We had 2 wrestlers that did great in individual tournaments. David Ingraham won the Pelham Invitational in New Hampshire, and Matt Prescott won the sectionals, which is just a huge, huge accomplishment. So that was awesome. And then in the spring, we actually have a bunch of new coaches with one returning coach. So it's exciting just to see, how the new coaches approach athletics and how the kids respond. And, they've just started, so we don't have any great news yet, but everyone's on the right track.
Now, how do you find coaches?
There's a couple different ways. We always post internally to the school, so we give teachers an opportunity to interview. We also usually post through the MIAA, who's the governing body for Massachusetts athletics. And we get a lot of applications, and we do have to sort through them and pick the people we want to interview, and then we present finalists to the principal, Mr. Lucia, and he selects the candidate.
Now, what type of capabilities do they have to have? Do they have to have already been a coach, or did they have to play that sport when they were younger? Or
It really depends. For example, our new boys lacrosse coach, his name's Andrew Bopel, and he was our JV coach for many years. And so he sort of worked his way up the system, and he did play in college, and he has all the credentials. But I think by being part of the school, it kind of helped him in that sense.
Yeah, something different. Now, you talked about a building year. In a school like Georgetown, we have, I don't know how many kids graduating this year. Usually
It's about 100 per class.
When I went to high school here eons ago, I graduated with 72, and it hasn't really grown all that much in those years. So when you're thinking you've got 4 grades for the high school players and only about 100 kids for each grade level, and how many kids play football? How many kids play baseball?
Yeah, it can be a challenge to get the numbers to make the team sometimes. But it seems like one of the benefits to that is a lot of times younger kids get to varsity sooner than they would at other schools.
Okay.
So they get to develop a lot more quickly. So, my soccer team's a good example where a lot of my kids who are on this, state championship level team had been playing varsity since 9th and 10th grade. So they had a chance to gel and become cohesive, and then they made their run. And, I can envision that happening in football and basketball in the next few years.
Okay. Because every year when you graduate these kids,
Yep.
you're losing
Right.
your most experienced players.
Absolutely. So the sub-varsity program is really important for that. The youth program is really important for that. And they do a great job at the GAA level as well.
Okay, I remember when my daughter was in high school, she actually was captain of the junior varsity.
Right.
To bring those kids up to par so that by the time they get into high school, they would be ready to play at the high school level. The last override had some funds allocated for the sports programs. How was that money used?
Generally, it was used to reduce user fees. So user fees went down about $125 per child per sport. So that just kind of helped reduce the cost of being involved in athletics because, in the last 10 years or so, the costs have just risen and risen and risen, and the school can't cover the whole cost. So in many ways, the parents have, taken a lot of that burden. And this was to help alleviate that burden a little bit.
What would be the cost of, pick your sport?
Sure. Pretty much all the sports follow the same pattern. You're paying for your coaches, you're paying for buses, you're paying for game officials, you're paying for equipment, supplies, administrative staff. There's a lot of costs that go into athletics that, again, I didn't realize that when I was stepping into the job. I've been working on my first budget, and it took forever to balance, and I'm not sure if it's completely balanced yet. I'm going before the school committee tomorrow to hopefully get it approved. But it's, there are a lot of costs that, the average parent doesn't see.
How much would it cost a parent for the parents of, let's say, a football player?
Without a user fee, or?
No. How much of a user fee is there?
This year, our user fee was $325 for one sport. We also do have a family cap of $1,500. So if there's a family with 2 kids that play 3 sports, they're not going to be paying for everything.
Okay. I had a Japanese exchange student. I think she graduated in 1982, and she was paying $100 then just to play tennis.
Yeah.
So they haven't really gone up that much in that length of time. And just found out her daughter is coming to school in Boston.
Oh, wow.
Coming to Northeastern. What are the goals that you have as the athletic director? Where would you like to take the Georgetown sports?
I think, everyone wants banners and championships and those sorts of things, and those are great, don't get me wrong, but I think the most important thing is making sure we recognize the student part of student athlete. And I guess being a teacher first, that's probably where that comes from. But I want to make sure that our kids, not only are just academically eligible, which is important, but are achieving academically. And I'm looking to initiate a program where we recognize our student athletes for, their high GPAs. The MIA has a program that looks at academic excellence, and I was looking at it and I said, I think our teams would qualify for a lot of this. And I just did the 2 soccer teams today. Our combined GPA for the girls and boys soccer team are right in the 3.4 range. which is amazing. You know,
Nice.
and that's every kid that plays on that team. When you average them out, we got 3.4. So that's great.
Yeah. Georgetown has the advantage being a town that has our own school system,
Yeah.
that we can really pay, this is my personal opinion, that we can really pay more attention to the kids than a lot of times the bigger schools or the regional schools, because it's a very small family
Absolutely.
and a little bit easier to take care of than really big schools when you've got 100 kids, you know, in a class as compared to 100 kids in a grade.
Right.
It makes a big difference. As you look at the whole process, what are you seeing in the future for sports in general?
I think we're headed back in the right direction. I think, you know, there were some years where the costs just kept getting up, and we were, you know, faced with, are we going to have to start cutting sports? And that's my last goal, is to cut any sport that we have. I mean, unless there's no interest in it, which can happen.
Yeah.
But I really want to make sure that our participation numbers go up, and that everyone who wants to play a sport can play a sport. And, you know, if they want to play 3 sports, they can play 3 sports, and they have fun, and it's a safe environment. And again, the winning, if the kids are enthusiastic and if the coaching's good, the kids will win. But it's secondary to the overall experience.
Of being on a team.
Exactly.
And being on a team and representing your school and your town.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much.
Well, thank
this
you.
has been fun and informative. Don't forget, you can find us Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. I'm Beverly Enos, and this is Spotlight Georgetown. Thank you for joining us today. Bye for now.